Susanne Schmidt. Susanne Schmidt. Come on down. I think you're about my same height. Yeah.
Thanks. So the first sentence I ever learned in Italian was "Si prega di portare libertà," which means "please bring to me liberty," or in my great-grandmother's case, bail money. My great-grandmother was an Italian immigrant who came to this country and became a garment worker in New York City, and she had been arrested so many times fighting with the suffragettes for the women's right to vote that this was the sentence that her daughter most remembered about her. And so, I'm just gonna lower this, sorry, I touched the mic. I touched it. And so my great-grandmother died the year that I was born, so I don't remember much about her at all, with the exception of the stories that my family would tell, and this one picture that sat on my grandparents' wall, which was a picture of her wading in the waters off of Coney Island in this long black dress pulled up between her legs and tied off at the waist, because she couldn't afford a bathing suit. And so the thing about Italian New York families is you might think that men are in charge, but really in my family, the people that were in charge were the people that could win the most arguments. And if arguing were an Olympic sport, the women in my family would be gold medalists. Because while the men outnumbered the women 3-1, the men in my family, when they would argue, is they would use this thing called facts. And they argued like it was an individual sprint. And the women would know that arguing is really a long-distance relay. There are arguments that started in small fishing villages in Sicily that are happening right now in Brooklyn. And so in the summer of 1972, this amazing thing happened. And on television one day was Karen Carpenter playing the drums. And I had to pick an instrument. And I knew I wanted to be a drummer. So I knew in order to do this, I'd have to convince the women in my family that this was a good thing to do. And so one Sunday afternoon at dinner, I said, I want to be a drummer. And instantly, my grandfather said, women don't play the drums. And my aunt turned around and she said, yeah, women can play the drums. She can play whatever she wants. And my father then said, well, there are no women drummers. And my grandmother looked at him and said, Karen Carpenter plays the drums. And I thought, the gold medal's going to the women. And then my grandfather said, well, I don't think she's a very good role model. And my grandmother looked at him and said, you're not a very good role model either. And yet you are still here. And my grandfather said, well, she wears pants on stage. And my grandmother said, you wear pants, and again, you are still here. And the gold medal goes to the women. And so that fall, I joined a drumline, me and 9 boys. Now, the other thing that was happening in 1972 was that Title IX had just been passed. So women were showing up everywhere, and boys were pissed. And so I showed up every day with my drumsticks, and I practiced really hard. And in spite of everything that they did, they stole my sheet music, they would take my drumsticks, I persevered. And so when this came for the winter concert, the bandmaster picked me to play the drum set. And this was an incredible honor, and I knew every single stroke of that music. And my parents were so proud that my mother bought me this long green velvet flowing gown. And so this thing was incredible, and I get on stage, and I'm playing along, and I look over, and all the boys are kind of snickering at me and laughing at me, and I'm like not just paying attention at all. And then I realize somewhere between the Hanukkah medley and Frosty the Snowman that a long velvet gown is not the best thing to play for the drum set. And so I look out into the audience and I'm panicked, and Rabin Klugeline looks over at me and he's like, I'll take your drum set solo. And I was like, hell you will, I'm doing this. And I'm not quite sure how I'm gonna get into the position for the drum set in this long gown. And I look out at my family, and there's like 3 rows of them. My grandmother is so proud, she's crying. and I know in that moment what I need to do. And I stride up to the corner of that stage, and I reach down and I pull that dress up between my legs. And I tie that frickin' thing off at the waist, and I sit down at the drum set, and I frickin' rock that thing. I come off stage, my family's in the lobby, and my grandmother comes up to me, and she hugs me, and she says, "Your great-grandmother is here with you tonight." And she's so proud. I fell asleep that night with the cymbals kind of ringing in my ears and that feeling of your heart pounding in your chest when you've worked really hard for something and you've been able to achieve. And I realized I don't think my great-grandmother meant bail money at all. I think she meant liberty. I think she meant the right for women to vote. I think she meant the right for us to show our legs at Coney Island on a hot summer day without being harassed. And I think she meant the hope that comes that if you work really hard for something, even if you don't get to achieve it, that one day maybe your daughter or your granddaughter or your great-granddaughter will get to be up on stage and they will just get to rock that frickin' thing.